Urupurim Maturim Gostavatim Radha Kundam Girivaram Aho Radhika Madhavasam Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tam Natosmi Jayam Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sunda Govindadev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chapter 3, Adi Lila, entitled The Superficial Reasons or the External Reasons for the Descent of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. When you say the external reasons, it implies that there are also other reasons, most likely internal reasons. And indeed, you'd be correct in assuming that, because there is internal reasons. And those reasons are covered in the next chapter, chapter 4, which has been translated as, I think, confidential. Swami Maharaj Prabhupada translates it as the confidential reasons for the appearance, the descent of Lord Chaitanya. So these are the superficial reasons. Confidential reasons are Mahaprabhu appears less frequently. As we read yesterday, the Mahaprabhu as Swayam Bhagavan appears in the same yuga cycle where Krishna appears as Swayam Bhagavan. Outside of that, in the majority of descents, appearances, it is not Swayam Bhagavan Krishna. It is the Yuga avatar. Both in Dwapara Yuga, when Krishna appears, it's a blackish color. Krishna actually literally means, one meaning is dark colored. And then in the Kali Yuga, immediately following, Gauranga Mahaprabhu appears as Gaura Narayan, the Yuga avatar. But once in a day of Brahma, and a day of Brahma is 1,000 yuga cycles. So one in every 1,000 descents, Swayam Bhagavan, Krishna, appears first in Dwapara Yuga as Krishna himself, his original form, Vrindavan Krishna, and then a second appearance as Radha Krishna combined in Kali Yuga as Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And Kaviraj Goswami says that the thinking that underpins this is that Krishna himself appears and says, sees a deficiency in terms of not teaching others or distributing others that high lila, that high spiritual feeling, the rasa and the bhava that is exchanged in his Vrindavan Leela. So he teaches and distributes that to others in the Kali Yuga immediately following. So that is considered the highest, not the tasting and the distribution of the highest spiritual substance. And it takes place in the lowest of the ages. Kali Yuga, the age which is characterized by wholesale iniquity and degradation, where all of the wholesome and progressive themes of the previous yugas have been gradually eroding, and Kali Yuga is left with very little of good substance and a lot of, we could say, bad substance, to put it simply. Kalir dosha nidhira jan asti heko mahan gunaha. That kalir dosha means a fault. Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is full of faults. Kalir dosha nidhira jan. Nidhir, an ocean of faults. Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults. Asti hyeka mahan gunaha. Mahan guna, one great quality. Asti. Eka. Asti eka mahan guna. But there's one good quality. Kirtanad eva Krishnasya. It's Krishna Kirtan. And so it's this Krishna Kirtan which is distributed by Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Harinam Sankirtan. Prem Sankirtan. Kirtanad eva Krishnasya mukta sangha parambrajet. Delivers the highest. Offers the highest opportunity. So, Krishna, Swayam Bhagavan, appears once in a day of Brahma. That's once every 4.32 billion years. It's a long time. That is a 12-hour day of Brahma. So, of course, 24 hours of Brahma is 4.32 times by 2, 8.64 billion. So once every 8.64 billion years, then that's when Mahaprabhu as Swayam Bhagavan appears. But that will be discussed in the next chapter. However, I'm recapping here because this is what Kaviraj Goswami is describing just earlier. And he says how in every day of Brahma, he is representing a time frames that are presented in the Puranas. So in every day of Brahma, every 4.32 billion years, there are 71 Manus. And they each are, you could say, the chief progenitor during that time period. And they each live for 71 Yuga cycles. Yuga cycle means Satyatreta, Dwapara and Kali. 71 of those. And there are 14 Manus, and the 7th Manu is known as Vaivashvata. I believe he's the 7th. Anyway, on the 28th Yuga cycle of his 71 Yuga cycles, so the 28th of his own 71, that is when Swayam Bhagavan Krishna appears as Krishna in Dwapara Yuga and then appears as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Kali Yuga. To not only act as a Yuga avatar, but to perform a special function of tasting Srimati Radharani's love and distributing that. Her love, her happiness, and his own beauty, those 3 items. They will all be explored further in chapter 4. So that's a quick recap. In text 9 it says, Vaivashvata nama saptama manvantara sataisha chaturyuga tahara antara. The present Manu, who is the 7th, is called Vaivashvata, and 27 Divya Yugas of his age have now passed. So we are in the 28th. Divya Yuga means a Yuga cycle. And in the purport, Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, he lists the 14 Manvantaras, the 14 Manus. So we will continue from text 10, which we read actually yesterday. Ashtavamsa chaturyuge dvapare raseshe brajara sahite haya krishnere prakashe. At the end of a Dwapara Yuga, of the 28th Divya Yuga, Lord Krishna appears on earth with the full paraphernalia of his eternal Brajadam. So outside of that, Krishna will also appear, but as a Yuga avatar. I was wondering the other day when the topic of various or varying Das avatar schemes came up, how some schemes list Krishna as the Vishnu avatar for Dwapara Yuga. And this is a strong argument given by those in the know, those familiar with such topics, primarily in India, for Krishna being an avatar of Vishnu and not vice versa. They say, oh, well, look at the Das avatar scheme. It shows that Krishna is coming from Vishnu. He's listed as number 8. Whereas Jayadev Goswami, 14th century devotee and songwriter, poet, he presents the scheme where Balaram is the 8th incarnation of Vishnu, the Dvapara Yuga avatar, Keshavadrita Haladara Rupa. So there are differing schemes. And I was thinking, just as there are differing accounts of various pastimes, the explanation, differing accounts of the same pastimes of these various lila avatars, etc. Then, and the explanation for that is that, well, they occur in every yuga cycle, but they're not identical. The details change, various events inside of that pastime. The overall theme of the pastime remains the same. The overall purpose, eradication of bad, re-establishment of good, that remains the same. But the details of how that is accomplished, they change. So just as that, just along the same lines, it seems as if possibly except for the 28th Divya Yuga of Vaivashvata Manu, this once in a day of Brahma, that Krishna can also appear through the agency of Vishnu as the Yuga avatar. So the Yuga avatar can appear as Krishna as an avatar of Vishnu. It's very possible for the Lord to do that. We cannot deny the Supreme the right to descend, however he so chooses, through whatever channel he so chooses. And just because a descent happens through a particular channel, it doesn't mean that that channel is superior to the person descending through it. So I'm not sure if I've seen that written anywhere, that outside of this special Divya Yuga where Swayam Bhagavan appears, that he appears as the 8th avatar of Vishnu, that Krishna appears as the 8th avatar of Vishnu rather than Balaram. But it's an interesting point for further research and discussion. Text 11. Dasya Sakya Vatsalya Shringara Charirasa Charibhavera Bhaktiyata Krishna Taravasa. Servitude, friendship, parental affection, and conjugal love are the 4 transcendental mellows. By the devotees who cherish these 4 mellows, Lord Krishna is subdued. We'll read the purport. Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Shringara, the transcendental modes of loving service of the Lord. Shantaras, or the neutral stage, is not mentioned in this verse because although Shantaras, one considers the absolute truths sublime and great, one does not go beyond that conception. Shantaras is a very grand idea for materialistic philosophers, but such idealistic appreciation is only the beginning. It is the lowest among the relationships in the spiritual world. Shantaras is not given much importance because as soon as there is a slight understanding between the knower and the known, active, loving, transcendental reciprocation and exchange begin. Dasya Rasa is the basic relationship between Krishna and his devotees. Therefore, this verse considers Dasya the first stage of transcendental devotional service. Shantaras, there may be remembrance of the Lord, contemplation of the Lord, but there is no active, loving interaction with the Lord. The personification of Shantaras is Prahlad Maharaj. We can see how with Prahlad Maharaj there is a great awareness of the Lord and a remembrance of the Lord and a surrender to the Lord. But there is no active service to the Lord. However, it does lead, Shantaras can lead to further service. It's not necessarily blocked at Shantaras. So it's not important we don't misunderstand this purport as given or these words as spoken by Swami Maharaj in his purport here, when he says that Shantaras, one considers the absolute truth sublime and great. One does not go beyond that conception. It means that in Shantaras, one's conception is locked inside of that. It does not mean that a person in Shantaras cannot ever progress beyond it. So it's important that we understand that nuance. If they couldn't, why would the personification of Shantaras, Prahlad Maharaj, preach the verse Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Shakyam, Atmanivedanam? These are active service expressions. Hearing, chanting, remembering. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Archanam, worship, Sevanam, service, etc. 9 in total. And these are given by Prahlad Maharaj in the 9th Kanda of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And Prahlad Maharaj is Shantaras. So from Shantaras there can be Shantaras is a platform from which devotional service can emerge in time, as preached by Prahlad Maharaj. And Shantaras is no mean feat, it's no cheap achievement. In fact, it's quite high. We hear that when Saraswati Thakur was in Vrindavan, on a few occasions he visited Vrindavan. There are a couple of famous occasions in the 30s, 33, around that 1933, 32, 33, 34. Not necessarily all those years, but I think a couple of times in those years, definitely 33. He visits Vrindavan, Shamakund, Radhakund, etc. And we hear how he doesn't delve into the 10th canto pastimes of Madhura Leela there, but rather he speaks on the topic of Prahlad Maharaj. So it's not to be scoffed at, diminished in any way. We see how Prahlad Maharaj in Shantaras also exhibits this Gopshrit Vivarana, which is embracing the guardianship of the Lord, and Krishna Rakshi, confidence in the protection of the Lord. These are kind of like twin limbs of Sharanagati. But Gopshrit Vivarana, embracing the guardianship of the Lord, letting it come into your life, not doubting it and not attempting to push it away because one has some other alternative source of protection. That such a position will prohibit full surrender necessarily. So the complete dependence and the embracing means full bringing into one's life, welcoming the protection of the Lord is considered the most important of the 6 limbs of Sharanagati. And we can see this particularly exhibited by Prahlad Maharaj. Complete embracing of the protection of Lord Narasimhadev. And of course that devotion attracts the appearance of the Lord. So we can say that, yes, as given here, that the cultivation and expression, the living of these different rases from Dasya, Shakya, Vatsalya, Shringara or Madhura, that yes, they cause the Lord to respond in a subservient fashion. They bring the Lord under the control of the devotee. But we can see how also this idea is expressed in its also earlier stages, perhaps in a preliminary stage, also in Shantaras, where through the remembrance and the devotion and surrender of Prahlad Maharaj, Nrsimhadev is compelled to appear and protect his devotee. So, this Chari Bhavera Bhakti Yata Krishna Taravasa, by the devotees who cherish these 4 mellows, i.e. rases, Lord Krishna is subdued. We see the beginnings of it in Shantaras, where Nrsimhadev is compelled to appear to protect Prahlad Maharaj. Text 12. Dasa Shakha Pitamata Kanta Gana Lana Braje Krida Hare Krishna Prema Vistahana. Absorbed in such transcendental love, Lord Sri Krishna enjoys in Braja with his devoted servants, friends, parents, and conjugal lovers. So it is not just Madhura Ras in Vrindavan. Madhura Ras is the highest rasa. But the intriguing quality, one intriguing quality of Madhura Ras is that it contains all of the other 5 rasas. And in another literature, in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami gives the point, or makes the point, that just like the earth element in the science of the tattvas, the very like the pancha tattvas, not the spiritual pancha tattva of Gauranga Mahaprabhu and his etc. But the 5 earth elements, that they all exist inside the earth element. That in the rolling out of the Maya, the Maya Shakti and all of its components, which, as Krishna says, Vina Prakriti Astadi. What's the beginning of that verse? Kam mano buddhireva cha ahankara buddhiya me vina prakriti astadi. I forget the first line. It's a Gita verse. Bina prakriti astadi. But the collective bina prakriti, the collective material energy, astadi, has 8 components. 5 of those are the physical elements. So as these 8 components are being created, it goes from subtle to gross, from ahankar to buddhi to mana to akash, ether, air, water, fire, water, earth. Ether, air, fire, water, earth. From subtle to gross. Each of these has their corresponding sense. So for earth it's touch, and earth is smell, air is touch, fire is sight, akash is sound, the ear, water is the taste. Anyway, Rupa Goswami gives the example that just as the creation of the elements happens in a progression from subtle to gross, that the grossest element, or the densest element, earth, contains all of the others. So earth contains the water element, it contains fire, it contains air, and it contains ether. So Madhura Ras contains all of the 5 rasas. It contains Vatsalya, it contains Sakya, it contains Dasya, and it contains Shanta. So it's complete, Purna, full. And so in Vrindavan, the Madhura Ras that saturates and permeates the entire environment also contains all of the other 5 rasas, from Shanta through to Madhura itself. And thus we see that, for instance, the so-called inanimate, not inanimate by a material measure, but inanimate objects in Vrindavan, such as the flute and the grass and the creepers, they are considered to be in Shantaras. They do not actively interact with the Lord, which would be required for a higher rasa. Dasya ras, there must be service. Sakya ras, active friendship. Vasalya ras, parental love. Madhurya ras, romantic relationship. So Shantaras does not have that. So, but it is still present. So it's not that it is excluded from the scheme, but it just does not have active, two-way relationship with the Lord. But it is still there, inside Madhura Ras. Yateshtavi Hare Krishna Kari Antardana Kari Mani Kari Anumana. Lord Krishna enjoys his transcendental pastimes as long as he wishes, and then he disappears. After disappearing, however, he thinks thus: Chirakala nahi kari prema bhakti dana bhakti vina jagatera nahi avastana. For a long time, I have not bestowed unalloyed devotional service upon the inhabitants of the world. Without such loving attachment, the existence of the material world is useless. Sakala jagate more kare vidhi bhakti braja bhava paite nahi shakti. Everywhere in the world people worship me according to scriptural injunction. But simply by following such regulative principles one cannot attain loving sentiments of the devotees of Braja Bhumi. Aishwarya Gyanete Sabha Jagat Mishrita Aishwarya Shitila Preme Nahi Moda Prita. Knowing my opulence, the whole world looks upon me with awe and veneration. But devotion made feeble by such reverence does not attract me. This is the essential distinction between Vaikuntha and Vrindavan. That Vaikuntha is governed by Vidhi Bhakti, because Vaikuntha is characterized by the grandeur, the Vaibhav of Narayan, the power, the omniscience, these qualities that are so awesome and so impressive that it compels submission and reverence, which is the emotions upon which Dasya Rasa is based. There is love there, but there is certainly love that is fueling the service, but it's love that is not intimate. It's love that is very aware of the superiority of God, of Narayan, his powers. And they must necessarily go. It is imperative that the awareness of such powers leave the bhakta, leave the devotee if they want to progress into the intimate realm of Vrindavan, into the antaranga. You could say the extra antaranga. The whole spiritual atmosphere is antaranga, but in the broad sense. But the especially developed antaranga of the Madhura, of the Vrindavan area, the Braja area. That means that the Aishwarya and the Vaibhav that characterize Narayan and Vaikuntha, they must depart and make way for the intimate sweetness of the Madhura relationship, rasa, the Madhurya rasa. And vice versa, Madhurya rasa cannot exist in Vaikuntha because of the predominance of Aishwarya, the grandeur, the glory, the awesomeness. That all goes. Simplicity and an Yogamaya covers the grandeur of Narayan so that a deeper rasa can emerge, the Madhura rasa can emerge. We see in the 10th canto where Krishna departs the rasa dance and the gopis are searching for Krishna, and he changes his form to the four-armed Narayan form, and just to play a trick on the gopis, and they see him, and immediately their mood of desperate searching for their beloved Krishna, that's broken. Immediately they're bowing down and they're offering prayers to God. And their bhav in relation to Krishna, their Madhura bhav is immediately broken. It's compromised. So that's an example of how this principle works. The two are mutually exclusive. The Vidhi, the Aishwarya-based Vidhi Bhakti of Vaikuntha and the Madhura-based Raga Bhakti of Vrindavan cannot coexist. Knowing my opulences, the whole world looks upon me with awe and veneration, but devotion made feeble by such reverence does not attract me. So it's even described such devotion as feeble. From our position, we wouldn't do so, but when making someone positioned in that highest Madhura stage of Raga Bhakti, can make such a relative judgment. Aishwarya Jnani Vidhi Bhajan Karya Vaikuntake Yaya Chatur Vidha Muktipana. By performing such regulated devotional service in awe and veneration, one may go to Vaikuntha and attain the 4 kinds of liberation, which will be listed here. Shashti Sarupya Arasamipya Salokya Sayujya Nalaya Bhakta Yate Brahma Aikya. These liberations are Sarshti, achieving opulences equal to those of the Lord. Sarupya, having a form the same as the Lord's. Samipya, living as a personal associate of the Lord. And Salokya, living on the Vaikuntha planet. Devotees never accept Sayujya, however, since that is oneness with Brahman. So Sayujya is the goal of the Mayavadi, the followers of Mayavada. The Mayavada doctrine, well, Vada means doctrine. So Mayavadis, or Advaitins, persons who want to experience oneness without variety. Mahaprabhu's doctrine is Achintya Bhed Abhed. So there is oneness, but there is also difference. Simultaneous oneness and difference. The Mayavadis think that from a distance, as one approaches the Supreme Soul, as one approaches God from a distance, they see a distinction. They see themselves and they see the Lord. They see Jiva and they see Bhagavan. And so it's Dvaita, it's two. This is the Mayavadi doctrine. As they approach, they see two. And then as they get closer, they see, well, that's two, but it's actually one. So they say that, well, they say two in one, there's unity and diversity. And they say, but as the realization deepens and you get even closer, the ultimate perfect state is pure oneness, like Advaita. No two. You merge completely with the Lord. They say that's the pinnacle of spiritual perfection. Whereas Mahaprabhu's conception is the last two stages have been swapped around, swapped places, reversed. The order has been reversed. So we'd agree that as one approaches the Lord, there is definitely Dvaita, a definite sense of difference from the Lord. There absolutely is in the circumstance of a conditioned soul, someone who is unenlightened, imperfect, covered by the material energy, can certainly see themselves as different from the Lord. And as they progress, then they go through, as we read in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, they go through various stages of spiritual evolution, even inside the material realm. The Gayatri mantra, Om Bhur Bhuvasva, and it continues up. Mahajana Tapa Brahma Satyaloka. Consciousness must necessarily progress through all of these stages at various paces, depending on other factors, personal effort, mercy, etc. But consciousness must progress through all of these stages. And then after Brahmaloka, where does it go? Viraj and the impersonal domain, the Brahma Jyoti, the light, the God light, the impersonal, the oneness, the realm of, the feature of the Supreme, which is undifferentiated oneness. It does feel like an ultimate destination, but according to Vaishnav understanding, it is not. But the soul, and this is described by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Rupa Shiksha, chapter 19 of Madhya Lila. He describes how the consciousness of the devotee moves up, the Bhakti Lata Bij grows through all of these various levels, through the Brahman, through this impersonal state. So the Vaishnavas swap the last two around. They say, well, yes, there is a definite comprehension of the distinct difference between the Jiva and Bhagavan. But as they get closer, then there is not a sense of oneness yet difference, but there is a sense of oneness. So it goes from being distinct to being indistinct, the relationship between the Jiva and Bhagavan. And this is as the soul, as the Bhakti Lata passes through the Brahman undifferentiated, nirvishesh, nirguna feature of the Lord. And then rather than that oneness being the ultimate destination, as we'll hear from a Mayavadi, the achintya bhed abhed, the bhed abhed, simultaneously one yet different, which can only function in a relationship between the Jiva and Bhagavan in the Paravyoma, in the spiritual world, where there is a oneness, but there is also a difference. There's an interplay between the two. Param Gurudev gives a measure of how one and just how different the Jiva soul can be. He gives some measure of how to determine that. I forget exactly what he says in that regard. It'll come to me if I sat and thought about it for a few minutes, which I won't do. So that is the essential distinction between what you'll get with a Mayavad believer and a Bhakti believer, is that the ultimate is not oneness, but the ultimate is oneness in difference. So, there's 5 kinds of liberation, 4 accepted by the Vaishnava and 1 dismissed. Yuga Dharma, Pravartaimu, Nama Sankirtana, Charibhava Bhakti Diya, Nachamu Bhuvana. I shall personally inaugurate the religion of the age of Nam Sankirtan, the congregational chanting of the holy name. I shall make the world dance in ecstasy, realizing the 4 mellows of loving devotional service. So this is actually describing the... this is the... Yes, this is describing the appearance of Swayam Bhagavan Mahaprabhu. Yes, because it's Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Swayam Bhagavan. So, although the chapter is entitled "The Confidential Reasons," where do we have it here? No, the causes for the descent. Yeah, so okay. This is the external reasons. Yes, of course. Little brain fade there. The chapter 3 is the external, and then it goes deeper. Chapter 4 describes the confidential reasons for Mahaprabhu's descent. So, although it's chapter 3, it's describing the general descent of Mahaprabhu. It's also touching on the inner reason for this descent of this particular Mahaprabhu, which is, I shall accept the role of a devotee and I shall teach devotional service by practicing it myself. So there's that element of tasting and distributing the rasa, the bhav of Srimati Radharani, whereas that is absent in all of the other Gaura Narayan descents of Mahaprabhu. We'll finish there. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakti Vrinda. Reading from Devotional Treasure Chest. We're about halfway through now. Devotional Treasure Chest by Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj. Beauty and love are controlling, not power. That is Goloka. Goloka relative to Vaikuntha. So we have the exact same theme. We're on the same page here with the topic that we are reading this morning. We've just been reading in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Beauty and love are controlling, not power, because that's the essential distinction between Goloka and Vaikuntha. That is Goloka. This is Gaudiya Vaishnavism, and Mahaprabhu and his followers carry the banner of such creed. The essence of Gaudiya Vaishnavism is beauty and love. Very simple. Where do we start? Through Nam, divine sound. It is easy to begin the spiritual quest. The most subtle thing in our experience here is sound. And it is cheap. It is much easier than dravya, materials for yajna, and so many other things which are to be gathered. Sound, however, comes freely and without any expense. Therefore, our research can begin with sound. But that sound must be of a divine characteristic. Just like the potency of a homeopathic globule depends on the medicine within and cannot be shown by the outer figure. Similarly, only when the sound of the name Krishna comes from the proper person, then Krishna's will is there within. In other words, Krishna from the mouth of a sadhu and Krishna from the mouth of an ordinary person are not one and the same. According to the idea behind the sound, from where it comes, whether from Vaikuntha, Goloka, or some particular rasa, the sound will gradually assert itself and take you to that place. The sound, Vaikuntha Nam Grahanam, must come from the infinite world, Vaikuntha, not from any mundane origin. So the inner potency is to be discerned and detected. To a certain extent, I am able to give some idea. What is the meaning of dedication or sacrifice? Yagyartat karmano nyatra loko yam karma bandhanaha. Work should be done only as a sacrifice, and all other work is energizing in the wrong direction. Yagyovai Krishna. Aham hi sarva yagyanam bhokta cha prabhur evacha. The Lord, our guardian, says, work must be devoted towards me, to my satisfaction, otherwise it is not yajna. Sacrifice means that it must be for the absolute center and not for any provincial interest, sectarian purpose, or anything else. It must go to the absolute, and then it will be real yajna. Other yajna, devata upasana, demigod worship, will go up and then come down. So devata upasana is saguna, and my upasana is nirguna. Saguna means under the influence of maya, the good and the bad of this world. And nirguna means that of absolute characteristic, which has value everywhere. Just as gold is the standard of money, not currency like the dollar, yen, or ruble, so rasa is the standard of realization of the absolute. Provincial ideas, sectarianism, or anything like that won't do. Such provincialism will be devata upasana and not worship of himself. The attempts of the little-brained persons will certainly be futile, going up and coming down. Abrahma bhuvana loka punar avatino juna. Bhagavad Gita 8:16. I am the only enjoyer of everything, and I am friendly to all. When you realize that I am all in all, and that I am a friend to you, at that time, all misgivings will disappear in you. All misgivings will disappear in you at the time when you realize that I am all in all and that I am your friend. Yes. All misgivings will disappear. Often people have even subconscious misgivings regarding God, possibly from miseducation in the topic, God-fearing. They have some idea that God will punish them, not knowing that all the results they get, everything that takes place, good and bad, is a product, consequent to their own actions, karma. God does not involve himself. Paramatma is like a bird sitting on a branch of a tree, and right next to that bird is another bird, and that is the Atma. The Atma is indulging in the fruits, eating the fruits of the tree, thus engaging in karma or action in this world in an attempt to enjoy. And the Paramatma is sitting there, passive, uninvolved, not interfering in the slightest. So Krishna is not going to interfere. He's not going to punish you, not going to reward you, except for one reason, in one case, in one scenario, and that is bhakti. That is where Krishna, the impartiality, independence, uninvolvement of Krishna, all of that disappears when bhakti enters the heart of a person. And bhakti is anukulya. Bhakti needs to be anukulya. It's a favorable disposition to Krishna. So any misgivings, they disappear when you realize that favorable position. Friendship. Friend. Krishna is a friend. This is very important. It may seem obvious, but there is so much toxic conditioning, ideas that are erroneous concerning one's relationship with the Lord, often through miseducation. God is jealous, God will interfere, God will punish you. None of these things apply. And when this is realized that God is one's friend, then anukulya, favorable relationship can ensue. And based on that, one can easily perform Sharanagati, or more easily perform Sharanagati. Why would one want to surrender to someone that one has misgivings about? So the misgivings will fade away when one develops this anukulya, or favorability towards God. Letting go of all previous conceptions of what is religion. Sarvadhaman parityajya. Let go of all your previous conceptions. Because a lot of them are not accurate. They're erroneous. They're mixed up with all sorts of toxic assumptions regarding God. Entrenched deep in the subconsciousness. Let them all go. Let the Supreme be your friend. Things become a lot easier. That's the advice of Param Gurudev. Jai Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sri Dhadev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Hari Hare Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Hari Hare Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Gopala Govinda Ram Sri Madhusudan. Gopala Govinda Ram Sri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan. Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan. Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra. Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra. Radhara Sri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Radhara Sri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhakta Raghunath. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhakta Raghunath. Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath. Padikara Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Sundar Radha Giridhara Ju Ki Jai, Jai Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Jai Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakak Sri Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai, Shri Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Vishvavaranya Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai, Samaveda Vaishnav Mandala Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Brinda Ki Jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat West London Ki Jai, Sri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Nitai Go Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. Harinam Sankirtan, Goyana Damonas, Harinam Sankirtan, Goyana Damonas.